Seattle.
You know, this is where it's from.
Bagger WiMAX?
Yeah.
This is Irish.
That's all right. I'll get some pictures. The rainbow won't be all later tonight, but mine was big clouds.
Yeah.
There was no clouds in the horizon, so there was big black clouds on it. Big thing. Two rainbows, and then just started to come off the horizon. And I was like, oh my God.
You can always fake it in Photoshop, right?
Oh yeah. You know, I'm not worried about doing that, but it's kind of cool to
It's cool to get the real thing.
get the real thing, you know, otherwise, because I get double rainbows behind the house all over the time. And so I can just take one full moon shots from later, stick it in the shots, jump over. What's left of it?
I had,
Here's the, well,
I'm guessing just
pictures.
touches.
oh, I was relying on this.
Oh,
I was relying on that connection.
now they turned it over.
But
Awesome.
He says he brought it like that, like the floorboards are rusted through, you can see the ground clearly, like in such big a spot that you could chuck a softball through it.
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
good, Mike.
I'm doing great.
Like those?
Yeah, they're
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, a little show and tell party.
Well, that's
Yeah,
this is,
get
isn't
out.
it?
Yeah, show and tell. Yeah. So get to talk
Yeah, I was
about
looking at this one earlier.
the computer stands.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's a 2 years of hard labor.
Ooh, is that one of the Japanese?
Well, I'll show you. In fact, I made a point of taking pictures of that to show how it's how we cut it. It's nothing super exotic, but just.
Well, it
dovetail-
sure looks
dovetail-
exotic.
Just dovetail joints that they are more pretty than regular joints. So anybody know how the setup works?
Ooh.
Sweet.
Oh, that's nice.
That's pretty cool.
Jeez. Even something like that. Slide.
Just like the video where it's
Oh, now you broke it.
on the table. Yeah, Brian's just got his camera set up.
Well, yeah, you do, you always take the filter off doing totality. So it's filter all the way up and then totality and so to us, the sun looks yellow all the way until it goes up.
Oh, God, you're gonna
If
go all the way.
you look at it, it would be black. So that's why another one, this one, you can turn it around, and go up down the green picture.
Yeah, thanks for do that. This is completely for you. Put your computer on.
Did you get me one of those fancy Macs to roll with it?
No, I'll get you a regular computer. You don't want to know it.
I wouldn't know how to use one.
You know, I'd grab it.
Do you have a Dremel?
What's that?
Do you have a Dremel?
They're in the drawer toolbox. In the lower drawer, the left side there.
Yes, as a matter of fact, gosh, what was it? I was actually just looking at it a few days ago. It was $4 change.
$4.47.
Yeah,
Welcome to Sector 67. The monthly meeting is basically set up as like a show and tell. So at the back of the room there's a 7-minute countdown timer, so anybody presenting will be strictly held to 7 minutes. I'm looking at the three of you. And then you take questions, and then we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Eric, and Mark's going to kill the lights as he's rehearsing. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go.
Okay, hi everybody. Can everybody hear me? Do I need the mic?
I can hear
Right.
you.
So far, so good.
Okay, all right, good. Well, my friend and I went down to Carbondale in his car, and I'm an amateur. He's an amateur too, but he's really a pro. He's been at it for forever. The central to my talk is that anybody can take pictures of the eclipse, and whatever your photography level is, it's a blast. I mean, if you go down there where the totality is, seeing it is only half the fun. It's the reactions of the people are amazing. So here is the view from the dormitory where we stayed, and this was with my telephoto at its maximum length, and that's a water tower on the horizon. Just to give you, and here's my first eclipse picture. And when I first looked at this, I thought, geez, does God play football with the universe? Supposed to be a laugh there. I'll tell you when you're supposed to laugh. So I kept going, and it got rounder and rounder, and I realized that it wasn't the reason that it wasn't round in the first place. I looked. Can you see a star? Is that showing up as a streak? Notice that the flattening is in line with the camera shake that resulted, that caused that star to blur. So as the camera shake got smaller and smaller, I got a better and better view of the eclipse. If I were a physicist, I could tell you everything that's going on here, but I was in awe. Now, we only had 30 seconds because it was overcast for the first few minutes of the totality, but I was prepared. I had my binoculars, and I had my clock in front of me telling me how much time I had left. And so for 10 seconds, I looked and got a stereoscopic view. Well, not stereoscopic, but I got a binocular view of the eclipse. And that was great, but I still had 20 seconds to go. So I picked up my single lens reflex camera with the photo, what do you call those long lenses? Telephoto lens. And then I got some pictures. This isn't the best of them because I forgot to put it on the long length. It was on the short length the whole time. You know what I mean? So, but still, considering that you have considerable camera shake even close up with a handheld telephoto, that's not bad given that my subject was 93 million miles away. And so the shots got better, and I think this is probably my best shot. It's got the clearest image and just very little camera shake. And the way I did that is I had a tripod with short legs, and I rested them on my chest, and I was lying down looking up, and I was taking picture after picture. And the more pictures I took, the less camera shake there was. I probably should have put it on sports so that automatically made those shots, and there might have been less. But I wasn't enough of a camera jock to think that I could set up a tripod and track it and be able to get good shots with a tripod setup. So I'm pretty happy with this. Now, as things progressed, I got some more not so good shots. But look at this guy. Accidentalism in art is a real force to be reckoned with because you make discoveries you wouldn't have otherwise have made. This was a real screw up. You can see the star over here is quite blurred, but basically what's going on here, I showed this to a physicist who was there, and the physicist said, "Oh, that's a reflection of the sun coming off of the earth and then going back." And I accepted that, but then when I got home and blew this up, I realized, no, what's really happening is the mountains, the valleys of the moon, the sun shines through there, and you can see the corona, and the corona is red. So when my camera shook and moved from the bottom to the top, or to the top of the bottom, I'm not quite sure which, you see these red streaks, one here, and and then one over on the other side. And those are concomitant with, it's called a Bailey's bead. One is here, and one is up here. And this was just before the sun really broke out on the other side. So there was more light on this side than there was on the other side. I'm going to treasure this shot forever. The last shot I got was when you stand under a tree, pinholes in the leaves cause a projector effect. So this was after the totality. Now, I have, oh, and here's a short video, which is terrible, but right at the very end it comes into focus. There. Okay. So, enough of these. My friend Jack Kisslinger sent me a shot of his experimental setup when he was a teenager in 1963. And he had a 4-inch reflecting telescope, and his family was standing around. Of course, they're no longer around, but I thought this was a great shot. To see Jack in his 70s now, it's really fun to see him when he was a teenager. But that's all they had. They didn't have these fancy glasses then. You had to take your own overexposed 35 millimeter to film and hold it up to look at. And it wasn't calibrated, so I think there were a lot of eye injuries then. Now here is a time lapse that a friend of mine made when this is looking back. My room was up right about here, and is that my 1 minute warning?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just your eye. Well, I'll just let you enjoy this as it goes by. That's how dark it gets when there's a total eclipse. So I was awestruck by that. So that's Jeff, and then, oh, it's Elliot, and then our own Jeff Whitehouse had a few photos, and I'll just look at those really quickly. Just slam through those. Jeff was in the room next to ours, and these were all taken with a phone camera, and we've got a little bit of silliness going here from camera shake. But again, my thesis here for this whole talk is that no matter what level you happen to be at, this is a friend of mine who just took her cell phone and put it into the lens of a telescope that was looking at the eclipse. This isn't recommended because you can burn out the eyepiece of your telescope, but lots of people do it. They figure, well, what the hell? And last but not least, this is an artist friend of mine who can't really blow this up very well, but I thought this was a fun picture. She's a beautiful woman. We used to sell, I would sell my wooden bowls next to her when she would be selling her clay pots. And it's fun for the family, and when the totality actually occurs, the most common thing that I heard was, "Oh my God!" And throughout the whole totality, people were just yelling, "Oh my God!" I'm not a religious person, but it moved me. I was really affected by it. So next time the eclipse is coming, the closest place from here is going to be around Bloomington or Indianapolis. It'll be in May, and it'll actually last for 4 minutes. I'm sorry, in April of 2024.
April 9th.
There you go. So, you don't want to wait too long to get your room.
I'll be there.
It's too late to get your room.
It might be. Classes are all sold out.
All right. Well, that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much.
So we watched it from Columbia, Missouri, and during totality, it wasn't as dark as I thought it was going to be. And in your picture, it looked like dark of night, like the middle of the night. Where we were, it was more like late sunset.
That was a little deceptive. Okay, I have to admit, it's almost impossible to get a true representation of how dark it is,
Right,
because lenses are linear, and your eyes, your physiology is logarithmic, so you perceive as the exponent of the intensity, and light and lenses perceive as the actual intensity. And so their range is limited. My brother's a professional photographer, made that mistake, and he set up his camera to be auto-compensating. Well, it didn't get dark until the very end. It went dark and came back on again. You didn't see the gradual progression. Yeah. Anybody else?
Did you put a filter in front of your
I didn't use a filter at all. I don't know that much about photography.
Well, for the total, you wouldn't need one, but for the partial, you would.
Right. Oh, and by the way, and incidentally, if anyone doesn't have one of these and would like one for the next Eclipse, if you protect it, huh? Everybody has one at this point.
Yeah, even though they say they expire in 3 years, that's not true. You can still use them in 5 years.
Well, if you look at, I would look at them under a magnifying glass and hold them up to the light to make sure there are no leaks. Then you're probably good to go. Oh, okay.
If you take care of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Just one, how long was the drive back? That's, I also did the trip. So I'm just curious.
We went down 2 days before, and there was no traffic at all. That day, the traffic was, I'd say, moderate to heavy. Wouldn't you say?
Going down.
Going back.
Oh, going back? Yeah, not bad. Actually, the worst traffic was here in Wisconsin because of construction. Like Janesville.
California had it super bad because they're so population dense, and the
Yeah.
whole state was converging into a 70-mile strip and then trying to drive back. So there was like 12
And they're on the coast, so they're.
And there's only a handful of highways.
Yeah.
We also heard that right after the eclipse, it was a 16-hour drive back to Chicago, which normally would only be 4, but everybody had to be back to work Tuesday morning, so that's why we stayed till Tuesday.
Yeah, you can get something for this.
So my name's Mike. I've been a member 4 or 5 years, and I joined and I made a presentation when we very first started. And I was going to start this nonprofit called treecraft.org and try to create jobs for people. And because I came from a job where I started Woodshop in '78 in Rockford, and it's still run. I sold it to a friend. I work for him now part time. But then I realized I didn't really want to start a new wood shop and stuff. It's just too much work. And so I devoted the last couple of years to making a new product line for our existing company in Rockford, Illinois, a place I still drive to once a week. And our marketing guy came today. So Andy, if you stand up just for a minute to say hi. So he's in charge of the front end of trying to take this new product line, this new project to market. And it's a bold adventure for us. It's computer stands. Again, we're a wood shop. And it's like if anybody wanted to lay a wager on the successes and failures of all the little startups that have happened here at Sector, it's a long shot. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we pull it off and get success, because we're not so good at selling just online. We've in the past sold through brick and mortar stores with different products, make little boxes and jewelry boxes and stuff like that. But so we got up in this new product line, and I say a Sector startup in a way because there's many people at Sector that have helped with this product line. This product is part of our new product line. We might sell this maybe about $200 retail. I brought a sample up here, but that was designed by Ben Hunter and Adrian. I say Adrian's last name, Perea. So anyway, so those two guys have been helping about a year ago with this project. At least with this particular product. I didn't set an Apple computer up here because I didn't want to be snobby about Apple computers, but this is obviously an Apple computer. It's got a little slot where the base of it can go in, or you can just set a regular computer on it. There's another one we have a sample of that has 6 drawers and secret compartments and different cable management stuff. That's probably going to be about a $400 retail. And we have a printer at work where we can print on wood surfaces or other surfaces. So we're excited to be able to offer Sector 67 logos on computer stands, and so sign up, you know, if you're hungry for that kind of stuff. Or a picture of your cat or something. So this website's going to be on Shopify. Before that, I did a website in Magento, which is an open source platform that I would not recommend due to its difficulty. But Shopify is a very refreshingly nice platform that Andy found an extension for doing custom, like t-shirt stuff and stuff. So a $15 a month extension on Shopify allows the user to upload their artwork, and we would then put it on a product form. This my daughter said, hey, put henna on a computer stand. This is a bad picture. We want to make printer stands. We got one in process. And we had a very fun time using leather for a hinge. This is not the sample of that. This is just an early photo. I just didn't have a photo of it. Oops, that's my wife and myself. But this is something that goes on the back of an iMac computer for those people that have iMacs. And so it's like a backpack that holds hard drives and stuff. So it's not the prettiest darn product, but it's pretty practical. And it has these little cards you can wrap your cables up in a stick them in a slot. So that's on the back side. So our photographer said, hey, what about my cat? And so we made a cat bowl. So it doesn't have anything to do with computer stand. So we're a little bit confused in our marketing front. But this is the website. I got the URL understands.com. Bought it from some guy down in Florida, been sitting on it for 15 years. And so it kind of lucked out. Understands that's not all bad. You can't quite see all this. Anyway, that's our current website. We didn't like it, so we hired Art & Sons here in Madison to redo the website. So that they're the designers that are going to put a fresh face on the website. Their design process is done, and then Andy just took it to a more of a Shopify experts down in Chicago to go once over on the website design, change it, and then do the development side to build it, because we chose not to go with the standard Shopify template. There's a guy in our shop, and we don't have these reviews. Vogue has not looked at our products, nor has Esquire. But Andy just stuck that in there, you know, as some song and dance kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, getting the reviews is a big part of trying to make a product actually fly in the market. And so, luckily, we found about 270 sites that review this kind of things. And so one of our next steps is to reach out on that PR front, which kind of has to happen in parallel with the Kickstarter. So, raise your hand if you know how to do Kickstarter, because we don't really know how to do it. But we're learning.
Lawyers will be looking into your website.
Well, you can just write Forbes, and then the small print can say, "Is a really good magazine."
The future is bright, but you know it's just going to take a while. So about a year ago we bought a sawmill. You know, Chris and I talked about trying to turn remember that Volkswagen we were going to turn into a solar kiln, and then you sold it, and you wanted to buy a $2,000 Harbor Freight sawmill, and we're going to cut up all the city's ash in this town. Well, that never happened.
But the city wanted a lot of money for their ash until they realized they can't get rid of it. Now it's back.
Ash are dying by the truckload from the Emerald Ash Board. So about a year ago, we bought a used sawmill. This is not our equipment. This is a local tree service dropping off logs. We pay 25 cents to $1.50 a board foot for lumber in the log form delivered to our yard, and then we just have to cut it up. So there's the used sawmill we bought, and a wood miser LT40, blah blah, and it's super fun to see a log turning. No one's going to come and watch me use a table saw, but people sit there and they want to watch it. It's not as I got a lot to say. It's not as cool as the wood, but so we got another urban wood, which gives us this pretty wood we can work with. There's ash. It's got the engravings from the Emerald Ash Borer on the front of it. I don't know if you can see it or not. To make it bona fide ash. This is kind of the how-to side. We got I made these little feet that kind of self-level if the product warps a little bit, because this funky wood might warp a little bit. So I'm running out of time to explain that, but these feet kind of squish down from the weight of the product. This is from Jared Bollinger, who used to be a member here. We were helping make a product with the dovetail in it, and so we liked it. And so I picked up on that. And this is how we're cutting the dovetail. We used to do it on a CNC router. We moved it to a secondary operation on a simpler machine to cut the dovetails. It adds a lot of romance. Here's where Kate Baldwin comes in because she's so smart. Kate's here tonight. This is on the back of our products. We're gonna number every darn one. You might call it a serial number, but we're not sure what to call it. But we're gonna number every product, and Kate's gonna make the Excel files that'll feed our printers to do that. And they can stop there because they got stuff. I can stop. Yeah, I'm running out of time.
So, we'll take questions.
Or just, any questions, sir? Yeah.
I like the way the IMAX slots into the top there.
Just the
And
far
the
right
whole
one.
point is it's a stand, so it lifts it up, but some people
Far
might
right
just want it
switch.
for storage. And
There you
if
go.
you have
Yep.
bifocals, you actually want your screen lower. So my question is, if you set the Mac on the ground and this is setting under it, does it clear? And if it doesn't, you might consider a second slot in the lower side of the
It's so cool you say that because I had in one of these, because this raises about 3.5 inches, I had one of them that did have a second slot. Andy would speak to that because he wanted to have adjustable heights. So you're absolutely right. Dave Wonder Photography, that's too high. So we have about 8 different products in this short product line. But we'll have a comparison chart on our website that shows you the elevation each stand gives. So it's important to do that. And I backed off putting the 2 elevations in this one product. It's a super good point. So to build trust, we got to say, hey, well, we'll take back whatever you don't like. We'll pay the freight back. Sean?
So what aspect, or what percentage of these products are you actually using the CNC versus traditional?
They're mostly CNC.
Okay, so the dovetail is the word.
Yeah, dovetail we were doing on a CNC, and it was just a tricky operation, so we moved it off the CNC.
Yeah. So all the profile cutting, that's all done.
Yeah, shaping the parts, and this has got a miters cut in it, and we put 2 saw blades on a CNC router to cut the miters, and then you have access to the other heads to do the other operations too.
Can you see that picture?
No, you cannot see that picture.
Saw blades on the. That sounds neat. I want to see that.
Oh yeah, I didn't bring any photos of that.
Oh.
But that's yeah. No, come back. Yeah, no, it's a really cool. We made our jewelry boxes that way for years.
Okay.
With that, so it's a very
You can cut the same board, the miter, you cut the both miters in the same board.
Yeah, we found flexible tape to put on the corners, and then lay the whole panel down. That's like 41 inches long or so, and then so you do all your machining cuts held down with vacuum, and then V-saw that out, and then we're actually able to cut right to the tape. It's an old thing like how they make speakers years ago with vinyl wrap and stuff, but we just are able to do it in hardwood, and that's very efficient. Any other questions? Or?
Yeah. Standing desks are pretty popular now. When you talk about building something that could go on traditionally.
Yeah,
Desk and make it a standing desk.
it's a great idea. We're just a 9-inch wood shop, and so we're limited. And what I mean that literally is that we have a motor that's 9 inches wide, and a wide belt center that's 12 inches. So we're little guys. So we're taking kind of the same machines that we use for our joy boxes all these years, and then kind of scaling it back for these other small products. You're right. It's a totally popular product, and it's nice to stand up at your desk, right? I do that. But
How much higher does it need to go to turn it into a standing desk? Just like is it a foot or a foot and a half high? I don't know if maybe you have one.
It's like this high.
There's like a blog post of someone using that.
About a foot, 30 to 40 feet.
Put on top of it.
On top of the regular table?
you probably
An extra foot for the keyboard and that
when you mention that, we have a laser machine that will cut through like 1/2-inch Baltic birch, and so this is cut on a laser, and so you probably could, and it's 4x4. So now that you say, we probably could find some way to make something using that's a very different construction technique than a CNC, just to cut over the laser. But yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Like how many? I don't know how many. Give people an idea of the size of Heartwood.
We're about 50 people total. We
your volume, or I don't know what you can. So it's a 50-person company basically. So
Yeah. Well, in all, our wood shop, used to do about $4 million a year in sales, and we sell these contemporary American craft galleries and stores around the country. And since 1999, 2000, that's gone way down. So our sales are about half on our woodshop side what they used to be. In the interim, we got off in the souvenir industry, and so that we we import stuff from China, and engrave on it, and so that's really kept our boat floating in these last years. So our woodshop is the minor player at this time, and so this is hope to make the woodshop zing a little bit again. It's a hope.
Do you have an idea what your goals are going to be for Kickstarter? Like how much money do you want to raise, or how many products do you want to pre-sale, or how many cents yet? Or
we are wrestling with Kickstarter all the time about what it all means and how to do it. And Andy hooked up with a really great guy from this website Grandmavox that had a very successful $1 million Kickstarter. So this creative director's been helping us a lot. We'll probably start humble. I don't know, $10,000. Something like that, and just put on 4 or 5 products. We're wrestling with how many products to put on it, and
so are you approaching the Kickstarter? I mean, do you actually need funds, or are you just gonna have some marketing?
It's to me what it mostly is a way to find out if we're even fishing in the right pond. So to me, it's a really a great way. We don't really need the funds, but it's a super good way to find out if we're on track or if we're making things. Hey, the stuff you're making is way too tall for us. So you should be making it's research is really keynote. For that, in fact, you want to put on more products to try to get more feedback. So if people email back or have questions, we will be all ears. And we sell some stuff too, but it's always I think the Kickstarter does this and then it's all over with, but it's not, you don't live long term on it, but it's.
You got one more question.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any competitors for these products?
It's a really good point. So we kind of felt like we're going to be able to make a broad statement within a narrow category of computer stands. Certainly there's plastic computer stands on Amazon. There's a company, Grove Made, that makes one nice computer stand, and well, sure enough, they said it's one of their best sellers, so that's a good start. But they only make one product, and so no, I don't see anybody else doing this price range. Urban wood. The urban wood sustainable thing is going to be hopefully an appeal, because you're out there at the mercy of people that shop on Amazon all day long. And these little websites have a hard time these days. But to answer your question, we don't see anybody making a strong statement in this category.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, so I'm Bob. Well, I'm a wacky dancer, but Bob is inside of me. And this is a product that I've been working on for the last few months with my girlfriend. We're starting a business together, making these costumes, and we're selling them now. So, we're really excited about getting whimsy and joy spread around the world as costumes. And now I'll tell you a little bit about how they're made and our process and all that, because it's been exciting and kind of scary and fun. So yeah, this is the costume. It started off with a Halloween costume where I made it out of a tablecloth, and then I got some hampers, and yeah, so this is just tablecloth material, but they cost about $70 in materials and about a day of time, and everyone loved it. And I would even, if I was sad, I would go out to the corner in my costume and wave around and watch people pulling out their phones and taking pictures as they were driving by, and it made me happy and it made them happy, so it was great. And then I did some math and I was like, well, wait a minute. it makes more sense for me to sell these than to work on electronics and try to sell electronics. So, like, I don't have to worry about FCC or UL or, like, the assembly process I thought would be a lot easier. It was just, let's try it. So I checked on Alibaba and started working on the components that I needed and ordering some supplies from Amazon. So I went through a few iterations out on, I want to talk to you a lot about the frame because that took a lot of work. So first we started with hampers off of Amazon, like this one, just collapsible hampers. You cut out the bottom, and it had straps on it, but we took those off. So one of the problems with this was that the mesh was the wrong color. So then I had to come up with a solution for adding my own mesh for the mouth. And that was just a lot of assembly steps. So I didn't like that. The other problem that I was running into was you can't really put the arms offset 180 degrees because then you're running into the wire on the other side. So your arms are always wonky. And it was a very high likelihood of the mouth getting obstructed by the wire too. So that sucked. And then I ordered some more, and this one ended up being too small. This one was only 16 inches in diameter, so that wouldn't fit. No. But the reason that this is all torn apart is because we were using it to experiment with, when we cut a hole for the arms, we were having problems with it like fraying. We didn't like that, so we were working on interfacing, we were using bias tape and all kinds of adhesives and sewing it, and it was not working out very well. It was very frustrating. So couldn't find anything on Amazon in terms of hampers that I really liked, so we started going to Alibaba, and I spent some time looking and finally found a company that made collapsible hampers, and contacted them and said, hey, I want some hampers, but they can't have a bottom, and some other weird requirements. And so they sent me some samples, and it actually took us a few iterations. So this was one of their first iterations. We actually tore this one apart because they still had it going around twice, and that was still giving us the wonky arm problem. So I took it apart and redid it with just the one loop around, and that was better. And then we were still experimenting with the armholes, and it took a long time. So it was about 3 iterations before we finally got this one. So this has a great mesh that looks awesome. You can see how floppy this is. Like, we were having big problems with the metal collapsing under the weight of the costume. And so we had them use a stronger, thicker metal. And so now it doesn't collapse nearly as much. It looks a lot more natural. Well, as natural as a Wacky Dancer can be. And it only goes around once, so we have enough room for the arms to not be wonky. And the other neat thing about this mesh is that it doesn't fray. So all of this work that we did on getting this tape to stick, we don't have to worry about that anymore. And yeah, so this frame is saving us a lot. But in order to get it, there's a minimum order quantity of 1,000 pieces, and that's a lot. So I had them ship the first 100 by air, and then the rest of the 900 are coming by ship. They're currently on a ship somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, and it is 1,100 pounds worth of these things, occupying 35 cubic feet. And I have not heard from the shipper at all. So I have no idea how much it's costing me to get those 900 units here. But I can tell you that getting the first 100 cost more than, and this is actually true of all of the parts that I've purchased off of Alibaba, the shipping has cost more than the products themselves. So like, there are shoulder straps on, so that, there's shoulder straps to hold it up. And on each of those shoulder straps are 2 of those clips that you would find on backpacks and stuff. The clips for 2,000 clips, it was 35 bucks. The shipping was an additional 45. So anyway, all of this to say, we're finally ready to, like, we've started assembling units, and we are shipping them now, and they are available for sale. And we just opened up our store online at wackydancers.com, and I've just started putting them on Amazon too, and you can get them now. So please do. Questions? Yes.
Are you making different sizes or just one?
So there are two sizes basically. There's this size, which fits people who are this tall up to this tall, and then we have a smaller size where we essentially just this is two hampers, one on top of the other, and so for the smaller one we only do one hamper and then hem the bottom or cut off some of the bottom, so that works for the smaller people. So yeah, it fits all people.
Are the arms higher too for the small one?
Yeah, we try to make the arms so that when people are standing, the arms don't drag on the ground, because we don't want people to trip. Yes?
What about putting this is like the big ones, where you could put a blower unit under it, so you didn't have to have a person.
Okay, so trademark and copyright is something that I've worked on a lot for this project. The reason that they are called Wacky Dancers is because the term air dancer and sky dancer is trademarked by the company that makes the inflatable ones. So I wanted something that used the Wacky Wild Inflatable Flailing Arm Tube Man term and the something dancing term, so that I wouldn't be violating any copyright, but I'd still be easily searchable. And as to answer your question, the patent for these things revolves around the method of inflating them using air blowers. So if we don't have an air blower, then we don't have to worry about patents. Also, it's a costume, which makes it clothing, which means that we don't have to worry about patents for that either.
Could you just sell an air blower on your website and not say anything about it?
But then we'd be competing with this other company, and I'd rather just stick with the costume niche.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned UL with consumers and all that stuff, but since you're obstructing visionary, is there anything you have to worry about there?
I don't know. I doubt it, but it is a costume, and there are lots of costumes that do that. And you are welcome to put this on and see how much it actually obstructs vision, because it's really not that bad.
I suppose you could just come with a piece of paper saying, stay away from the road.
I would definitely not expect people to be driving in it. Is that what you meant?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, just for that, I mean, are you worried about liability at all? I mean, did you have a disclaimer that comes with it? How are you
Or like flammability.
if people walk into the fall in the car?
So I don't think that this would be any more of a concern for product liability than any other product. Most of the time, you assume that people are going, like, if you use it the way that it is intended, it's reasonable use, then it shouldn't be a problem. And then anything outside of that, people are being stupid and they'll lose the lawsuit.
I do think it's super awesome, so I don't want to be a killjoy, but I would do a little bit of flame testing, because the last thing you need is a YouTube video of a birthday party where somebody gets too close to the cake and engulfs in flames. Right?
So it is polyester, and in flame it basically melts.
Okay. So it doesn't ignite.
I don't know. I don't think so.
We can test that.
All open cams.
Yeah.
It's as hazardous as wearing a polyester jacket near a roofing. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Pretty much.
All of the sleeves are.
Yeah, it's enveloped is the only difference.
So, can you explain the process of using Alibaba and them customizing this?
Sure. So basically, you go through Alibaba until you find somebody that makes something similar to what you're looking for. And you say, I'm looking for this, but I want to make these specific changes. And so they sent me, I had to pay shipping for the first couple, which they sent me by air, and it took less than a week. And so I opened it up and said, hey, I got it, looks great, here are the things that I need changed. And so they did the next revision and sent me those, and that was another 75 bucks. And they weren't charging me for labor or for the actual hampers, because shipping was so much more. But then once it came time for the order, like that kind of makes up for all of the work that they put in because it's 1,000 units. So the Alibaba is actually pretty nice to use. There's a messenger part of it where and everyone that I communicated with was answering within hours. It was very professional. There's a part where you create an order and there's this trade assurance that Alibaba has so that you verify that they verify that the money has been transferred, and then they verify that the products have shipped, and then you verify that you've received it, and so everything is surprisingly good.
Is there the possibility of having those guys make the whole thing?
There is. I would probably have to spend a lot more time and effort, maybe even go over there. And at this point in the scale, and like it makes more sense for us to have done the product development and figure out these crazy things that if we had outsourced it originally, they might have just done a shitty job and I would end up with 1,000 of something that I couldn't sell. So for now, it makes more sense for us to do the manufacturing, and if things get to a point where it's out of our control, then we'll outsource.
Maybe trip to China.
Well, I've already started outsourcing actually. So Danielle and I are not able to do as many as we hope, like put in as many hours as we hope that it will require to make and sell all these. And so we've started recruiting other people to do a few hours a week. And the nice thing about these is that there's a lot of parallel processes. So like sewing the eyes together can be done completely separately from assembling the hampers. And so we can have a bunch of people who are doing individual tasks and then just kind of bring it all together. So I'm starting to amass an army of housewives, basically.
Any other questions?
Yes?
In some companies, this is usually when somebody's going to outsource to China, so I don't know how it works when you're already in China, but if they're having their guys custom build you one or two of these, and then when you order 1,000, that might be 2 different warehouses or 2 different people. How much have you paid attention to or contracted specifically this material, this is the dimension or whatever? Is there any variance in the block of 900 that you're expecting from the 2 that they've sent you so far?
So the nice thing about what I did with the hampers was I ordered 1,000, but I had the first 100 shipped by air because that way I could start selling before the rest of the 900 arrived. So it was the same lot of assembly,
Okay.
but I got 100 of them a month early.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm driving towards though? Like if they change their recipe somewhere and they start making their hampers out of cotton instead of polyester, and they don't, is that in your relationship with them or whatever?
Right, so that hasn't been part of the discussion yet. I don't know some of the specifics about these hampers, and that makes me a little nervous. Like, I don't know what wire they're using, and if it has some crazy alloy that's radioactive or something. It's entirely possible, but very unlikely because that would probably be more expensive than non-radioactive alloy. But anyway, you are absolutely correct that that it is important to get the exact specifications and to clarify them. On the other hand, them having that knowledge kind of makes me rely on them, which is better for them. So, yeah. So it might make for a better relationship with that factory if they know that they're the sole provider.
Thanks, Bob.
One more question.
All right.
Sorry, is it possible to send and receive text messages while running?
Actually, yes. So the way that I've worn this,
because people will try.
yeah. So you can pull up the arm and then use your hands like normal. The problem is getting into your pockets. And to solve that, I have occasionally just pulled it inside, and then I've got one arm inside the costume, and I can do all that. And then the other arm doing the waving. And that most people don't notice that one arm is just kind of floppy. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
before my 7 minutes start, I would like to
There you
say
go.
that my CNC machine that I ordered from China, they switched the CNC, the motors, the stepper motors on me, put in $5 generic Chinese motors, which I didn't discover until one of them burned out. Then they blamed me for waiting 18 months to tell them they cheated me because I didn't take the sheet metal off when the machine arrived and inspect every motor on the piece to discover I had been. But I'm okay with it. No, I don't want that.
Oh my god, I know. Let's get started while you're getting out there. Yep. Where's your boards? You take them off the truck or they're stuck? Oh, Jesus. Waiting on Adobe, you better buy time.
My brother works for I think he owns it.
Oh yeah, it's there, and we can see Adobe's actually, Adobe is attempting to launch.
Okay. The title of my presentation is Cutting a Piece Longer Than the CNC Table. This Chinese machine I've got is 48 inches by 48 inches. I wanted to make some sideboards for my pickup truck so that I could do my own advertising when I'm in a parking lot. They're 72 inches long, 9 inches tall. Turns out they're the largest pieces I've ever made. So I intend to introduce about 6 minutes and 30 seconds to be an introduction, and then I'll try to get through my conclusion. There's already 2 minutes off.
I know, that's because we started.
That is crap. I'm not talking anymore. No, I'm going to use my 5 minutes. All right. So anyway, the point is, how do you do this? Everybody knows it has to be doable, but the idea of how you do it is kind of a killer.
He's got it there. I was doing it. Yeah, but
That's
here,
good. All right, so just keep it going. So this is the notion here. This is the 3D model that I've generated, and I use MeshCam to generate the G code. And the only way this works is if I can define 2 separate regions that are roughly the size of my table. This is 72 inches. I just cut it in half, 36, 36, and I machine the bottom half first and the top half second, and then do some tricks to make them align. It worked. The point is to define these at least two overlapping regions. I only wanted 2 because of the pain. Cut one of the regions, move the piece, cut the second region so that the result is seamless. That's the tough part. And yet, I knew I needed to have some sort of registration system, but then I was worried about cutting that part away. So in the end,
if you haven't figured it out yet, Dave's talking about making these wooden pieces. That's the back of his
this
truck.
is a pickup truck. This is a sideboard for a pickup. Okay.
And his CNC wood router.
There's another 10 seconds. So here, Chris might have said I was a bit over optimistic here. I allowed 1/100 of an inch overlap between my 2 regions. Well, I thought either it's going to work or it's not, and it worked. And then the other thing is MeshCam allows you to use DXF files so that you can get very accurate definitions of your region. Otherwise, you have to try to draw pictures of it. But so I've got a lower region here and an upper region here. And this right here is a crucial piece. I decided to sacrifice part of my model so that I could drill registration holes of a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/4 inch thick. Drill registration holes that were a 1/2 inch. So one hemisphere was here and the other one was over here. Semicircle was here and the other one was over here. And those were going to be my registration marks. So what order do you want to cut them? Well, you have to cut a rough and a finish pass for both regions. So there's 2 regions, 2 passes each for a total. I want to start with the lower region just because that's in front of me. I'll do that, then I'll move it forward. Then you obviously begin with the rough pass on the lower region, but then what do you do? And then how do you do it? And that's where I stayed up some nights. So here's just an example. Here's one side has been cut, rough cut. The other side has also been rough cut, and it's had a finish cut run on it already. Now all I need to do is come back and run the finish cut on this, and they really should line up so you can't tell where the seam is, and it accidentally works. So I decided on 2 machine regions because 2 was enough of a heartache, and I decided, as I said, trade some of this model real estate to get a reliable relocation. I cut the lower rough, I moved it, then I cut the upper rough, then while it was sitting there, I went ahead and did the upper finish, move it again, followed by the lower finish. And I need a picture here. So here's the deal. This is my permanent straight edge right here. I just leave this clamped, and I periodically move my cutter over to that piece and adjust it to make sure that my cutter, that edge represents straight on my machine. This is a temporary buffer I clamped in here semi-permanently, and I drilled 2 locator holes right here, 1/2 inch, again, right on that seam, and another 2 back here. The key thing was I have one coordinate system that specifies where these holes are located, and that coordinate system I don't mess with. The other coordinate system is a point I picked in the middle of this board, and I'm always going to return to that point. So I'm going to return to that point in space, but I'm going to tell the machine that the value of that point is different depending on whether I'm cutting the lower part or cutting the upper part. And so here you can see what's happened is I've got my vertical, I just picked a 1/2 inch so I could use the vertical shafts of my cutters for my alignments. And the reason I picked 2 holes in each location is that I felt like 2 shafts in 2 holes would be a little stiffer than a single shaft, you know, in case there was any variability in the things. And I was dumbfounded that it worked so well. So the protocol was home the machine, that is essentially move the machine to its absolute location, and then drill these 4 index holes, and then, okay, and that's it.
That's the rush part.
Okay. Okay. Well, I did pretty good.
It looks great.
The truck is sitting out here. And it really does. It looks excellent in the dark. Okay.
This is where Dave buys time with questions. So maybe we have questions. Yep. Larry.
What piece of the planet did you carve?
Oh, I would like to go back to the beginning of the slide. This is the lower Wisconsin River Valley. So Sauk City here, Mississippi here. I think that's Wyalusing maybe. Up here where it takes the bend is Sauk. And then actually Madison is right here. The other side I did the Grand Canyon. And I've got a third, which is the front range of the Rocky Mountains to do across the back. But I've decided I will never do that one.
Is the Z-scale exaggerated?
It is, yes. Otherwise, no one would care. It's boring. So I exaggerated, again, it was mentioned earlier, your eyes are logarithmic. Your eyes expect a certain thing.
Did you use your router to cut the index holes?
Yes.
And then couldn't you have done that from underneath? Not sacrifice that quarter inch or obviously make your model 9 inches instead of 9 inches? Because I imagine you ripped off that.
You're probably right, but then I would have had to have locator holes in my table. And my table has not been touched by anything. It's still intact.
About how much carving time for the whole piece?
Thank you for asking. 9 inches tall. Well, 9 inches over here. It seems to be bigger over here. But anyway, 4 hours for that, 4 hours for that in the finish. And again, think about it. That's 9 inches times 72. That's a lot of square inches. The biggest thing I've done up to this point was 20 by 20. So that's, about 50% more.
Is this 4 and 4 with roughing or with finishing?
No, that was just finishing. So roughing was another, I think, hour per each side. So
10 hours,
10 hours. Yeah.
Is there any reason to just, why didn't you just rough everything out, rough one side out, finish it, and then just roll it over, rough it out, finish it, versus having it move back?
I don't have that kind of confidence. I wanted to catch it if it was going to screw up. I wanted to catch it in the rough phase, to see that it wasn't gonna work out. Oh, there's another reason, another serious reason, is the way Meshcam does roughing, is it actually roughs out beyond the market. So if I had finished this, and I actually had thought of that, my roughing pass would have come back and scrubbed that part away, potentially. Yes.
Notice you have
Reserve the right not to answer questions.
Francis, shut down. Next. Who's next?
Notice that
Softball.
you had in Madison the roads were short.
Yes.
They were bumped up. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
Did you drape those roads over the surface? In
Yes.
other words, can you follow those up and down?
Yes, and they get lost in the hills, but they're there. They are there. In fact, everybody comments that river's way wider than I thought, but if you look closely, this is the floodplain of the river. And there are actually towns down in here on top of that, and the roads run along in the floodplain.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thanks for that softball.
Anybody else? You can see why I have to limit Dave to 7 minutes.
Thank you all.
Alright, thank you, Dave. We're gonna change things up. We're gonna change pace tone. We've got 2 CNC router things, so you gotta really throw us.
This involves routers.
That's true. It does involve routers.
Guess what kind? Let's see if the one you have rigged up works on this phone grab instead. I like your remote. Can I run your remote?
My remote. This isn't a remote. Yeah.
What the?
That was what I was thinking.
A service.
You can only guess. This is top one.
It's $200. Is this a shelf that's $200?
Thinking about it. Oh, do the
That's the premium.
do the smarter one. Yeah, the one that launches right away. Now it might say that we don't have a valid license.
Hey, let's start his timer.
Oh,
Let's get the timer started. Let's get going. Get that timer started.
Look at the bottom of this one, Dave.
Is there a mic for this hand? Do I have to hold you on? You guys hear me all right? Okay. So I work for 5.9, local tech company. You've probably all heard of it. Radio, TV nonsense, spots and sponsorships galore. We try to help out the community with whatever we can, wherever we can. That happens to be a lot of broadcast for WORT, online streaming for WSUM, whole host of stuff with Wisconsin Eye, a lot of media things that get on the net. But what 5.9 also does is a ton of networking. Slide. So what is this all about? So years ago we got whatever through a clever connection, some equipment that provides a 4G cellular network. It's a lot of carrier equipment, stuff you see on big tall towers, and we got it for a price that we could afford of $0. It's pretty amazing. And then Chris let me install some of it on the rooftop here some years ago and figure it all out. And then make it better and better, and figure out how to get things to work well at high speeds. And then I said, well, let's take this show on the road for real, and then deploy it around the whole city. Because I kind of think big. I don't want Wi-Fi in my house or the neighborhood. I figured, let's just do a whole deployment in a city like where I live, for example. That'd be kind of cool. And so we've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years now. We have a lot of coverage deployed, and this whole thing called Internet of Things is now a thing on everyone's mind. Who's not heard of IoT yet? Okay, great. Well, so Internet of Things is all about putting worthless crap on the internet so that you can hack it and get it taken over. And I thought, well, what can 5.9s do in this little IoT space with the existing infrastructure we have to help it in some small way? And so we took this thing. The backstory here is very short. Open Range Communications got hundreds of millions of dollars from the government and JP Morgan Chase, and filed for bankruptcy in 2012, and I got all their shit from Wisconsin in 2013. That's the bottom line here. That's how we got this whole thing. This is where it comes from. So we put it to good use. I figured it was already our tax dollars. We should deploy it at least in a city where folks live and can use it. Slide. And so what's interesting, the top 3 things that represent the unexpected stuff. Who could deploy a carrier network with any real results in the area? I thought we could. Why should we care about it? What's the connection to anybody else? And that is,
as a local business, what can we do in the infrastructure space that shows well on the community? I've been invited to speak about this project at the White House last year, for a matter of fact. And so it's just traveled far and wide. We've shown that small IT companies can actually deploy carrier-level, carrier-grade infrastructure without breaking the bank and make it work for years and years. This didn't work out at all. And so there was a part that I want to mention that's very unique about what we've done. There's no bullshit in our network. With IoT, one thing we want to do is send periodic messages back to the cloud, if you will. Maybe have long-lived connections that let you get access to your Internet of Things once they're out there. We don't do things that get in the way of you doing that, bottom line. We don't jack your IP addresses up every time the radio resets. It might keep the same address for 2 years. If you want a static address, you can ask for it and get it. It's amazing. How can this be? Well, it turns out we designed it that way. Slide. Here's the coverage we have today. Down the bottom, on the bottom end of the graph here is the belt line of south side of town. This is 3990 over here. This is East Town Mall, approximately here. Airport, Big Lake, Monona, Wabisa? Wingra, sorry, yeah, that's Wabisa's down here.
Green and orange.
So colors are important and meaningful. Green is 10 megabits or better, predicted coverage. Orange is 1 megabit or better. This is a very conservative graph. You'll see a lot of missing gaps and areas here that we don't factor in because in the complexity of this sort of thing, we don't do ray tracing, which would predict multipath effects, reflections in the environment, if you will. We do simple straight line propagation in a broadcast model, so it's conservative. Bob?
Why not focus more on the city and less on the lakes?
Well, you've heard about work from home, right? What if you got a boat? You got to get everything you can get in like 2 or 3 weeks in this climate, right? You get it all in. So these are the sites we operate. The little push pins are harder than I thought to see, but you'll be able to tell quickly that we've got more than 6 sites active now, several on the south side, like on Watts Road, on top of the Princeton Club, down here at Perry Street, in the industrial area, West Broadway, and Soda Road are not active yet, but everything in the downtown corridor is working. And you can take a drive from West Town Mall up the Beltline over to the University, Old University, all the way through downtown to the other mall, and keep a call up and have data move the whole way, and it's all good. Slide. And so how's this all working? You can't use your cell phone, sadly. We're a protocol, it's a bit too old for that, so you got to have a thinger. Slide. The favorite thinger that we haven't gotten working yet, which is the whole reason for talking to you all, is this little USB module on Mini PCI Express. Right? It's $5, and there's millions of them in the world. And we want to get them working again. Slide. This little handheld portable hotspot, quarter and card for scale, is functional, Wi-Fi on there, charges on USB, has Ethernet on USB. Slide. Next one, little candy bar stick, a little bit better performance, same idea as before, Wi-Fi, big battery inside, still pretty small, fits into a lot of stuff. We lost only one of these on a balloon experiment. Slide. Oh God, that didn't work well at all. Okay, well, so there's an indoor modem, you can't see the picture, it's great, it's also cheap. Slide. And okay, what's the bottom line for the business aspect of this whole thing? First space bar. We need someone to help get this stuff out and sold to people's hands, if you will. So who wants to sell and market a wireless carrier-grade network in Madison is the question here. Hopefully one of you. Five Nines does all the work in the back side. We need someone for the front side. So the storefront, the phone calls, the billboards, all that sort of thing that gets stuff out there and in people's minds and possibly transacted. And finally, get that module working. The deal is simple. Make it work, get 100 of your own IoT devices on the internet, free of charge for 2 years. First one wins. No funny business. That's it. Keep going. That's the last slide. I finished fast. There you go. 4 seconds. What do I get for that? All right. Any questions about that whole mess? Sir?
Business transfer to, I can get internet in my house through your company right now.
Yeah. Are you going to go back to the coverage, please? That's probably the most interesting graph here.
Rock in my house from here.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, east side's pretty good. You know, if you're in this little pocket here, pretty okay. We're going to probably have something on top of Madison East pretty soon, and that 1010 East Wash building. The Lyric built the big orange thing. Don't know if you love it or hate it, but we're going to be using the rooftop for your internet, so love up for us. Sir?
So, in your pinpoints, they're pretty widely dispersed throughout, you know, Madison, concentration is. Now, is there a certain range, or is this just the reason you have concentration there? What, I guess the question is, what is the maximum diameter you can get?
These sites here, we've already deployed equipment on. These 6.
Is that because the building was there, or because it's ideal?
Right. We had convenient rooftops. We had equipment. The first wave of gear, and there's a lot of hardware that goes into putting this stuff on roof. Imagine tens of tons of steel, piping, antennas. The stuff you see on major towers is what we're talking about for this sort of thing. So that was our first wave. Second wave is going to be on top of buildings that are going to be a bit more difficult to install. We have to use lightweight hardware. Non-penetrating roof mounts, no major structural changes, all that kind of stuff. It takes a bit longer for us to deploy. Was there 1 or 2 more, Bob?
Say I wanted to ditch charter and go with your stuff. What would that take?
Go to the last dark slide there. $50 for the hardware, and we had to figure out how to sell it, so you can work with me on that. You don't know how to sell it yet. I can't tell you how to do it. So the only promotion we have today is a $150 one-time thing for nonprofits to get free Wi-Fi in their shops based on this network. So it comes with a captive portal. That's the only offer today, officially, air quotes. Because you know me, we can work on something else. But that's how it works in the public today. Sir?
Let's say you took it and became aggressively marketing and says fire spectrum, you know, that type of thing. How fast could you deploy if this thing did take off? Could you handle 500 people out there as far as back room talking to them and all the customer service to help them get on, and I can't get this working and blah, 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 and get that?
We got about 25,000 of the indoor modems in stock.
I'm talking about service, so get people online.
We don't have that. We have the mad provisioning. Throw us an API call, thumbs up, that's it.
So you're looking for a partner to do what he just...
Yep. Front end, front office, sales, channel, fulfillment, that kind of thing is what we don't have. Correct. Well, so the good news for this sort of thing, and the bad news, is that the modem will work or it doesn't, and you can return it. We want to work out a process to not stick you with an unusable service. And if it doesn't work, get a new modem. If it still doesn't work, give up. There's almost nothing we can do to actually troubleshoot the customer modem, other than hardware swap. So good that way. Unlike Charter and landlines, there's nothing in between us but air. So if there's a problem in the base station, we're going to see that. We handle all that kind of stuff. It's not their responsibility. The customer hardware is it, really. Sir, back for it. After behind Larry.
Just to look at the small guy that you can't get working there.
Yep.
Is that a hardware issue? Is that like a networking program? Firmware.
Supplicant library, past 2.6, Linux bullshit, kernel API drift, you know the drill. So you can probably fix it if you love C. I hate it. Not touching it. It gets on the air, it scans, it talks, but it won't turn off the supplicant, and it won't make it do TTLS. It does TLS. If you know EAP, you'll hate this. So, who else had one? Back in the blue.
How's it work for regular weather?
Invisible to weather largely. It's at 2.5 gigahertz over the air. This is licensed. I didn't mention that earlier. We have licensed spectrum for the whole project. It's not 2.4 gig Wi-Fi or 900 megahertz ISM stuff. This is legit 2.5 gigahertz, band 41, in the FCC database, pay the big bucks, and no bullshit. Because no bullshit. Sir.
New question. You're planning to expand to the well-heeled Wacky neighborhood?
I cut that pop off, but we already have a site on top of 251 Progress Way.
Number 2, Internet of Things mobile in my car. What does that mean? If you can tell me how having IoT in my car is a game changer, I think this thing fits.
You can warm it up before you get to the restaurant in the winter.
Remote start, telemetry, all that kind of cool stuff is there, but the biggest thing is not just one car, but 100 cars or 20 cars that are delivering for you. That's where we're going. I want all the cab companies, maybe Green Cab last, but everybody else, sorry, like towing companies that also run cabs on the side, you can do that. But that's your sales problem, not mine. Am I editorializing already?
Yeah,
only had 2 beers.
Woodman's is it's delivering groceries. It's a guy here.
Right. So my real conception is anything that wants telemetry, distributed control, periodic check-in, lake sensors, roadway stuff.
How about government? Police cars, emergency vehicles, are they on board with this?
They would love it. The city IT department is challenging to get into. They're still paying Verizon a lot of money, and that's seen as a good thing because the coverage extends beyond Madison. We don't do that today. This is a very specific city focus area.
As proof that Tony's not completely full of it, this is actually a 1 minute frame update from the other building. So this is really a security camera basically, but it's updating every minute. So
this is on the...
Yep, so this is live right now. But it does work. We have an antenna over in the other building and it's going downtown.
Too bad it's not pointing at anything.
You're next.
It's perfect. It's a door frames.
Sir.
What was the process licensing that frequency like, and are the big cell carriers wanting to get that?
Good question. So let's talk about the asset class of spectrum for just a very hot minute. 1 hot minute. So the channels we're using became available through educational broadcast service in the 90s. University of Wisconsin Board of Regents holds licenses to several of the channels. TDS also, they no longer operate as any network. MATC, Madison College, whatever that collection's out there. Sprint is in the mix too. The way that it works for us is we filed periodically refreshing what's known as an experimental class license with the FCC. We're on the books. We have no primacy to the band. The way this works, though, is the structure and the fractured licensing of the current channels mean any third party can't get them all to coordinate and agree on doing anything. So they're locked. They're deadlocked. You can't get anything function unless you talk to 4 parties or 3 parties. Sprint got what they could without any effort for talking to 1 party, and that's as far as they go. So the whole band is about 200 megahertz wide. There's about 40 megahertz of it in use at Sprint, and the rest is us. How's that? So we're okay for a long time. And so part of this network is designed to be agile around the eventuality that we have to reconfigure or move channels around. And out of that available spectrum, call it resource or footprint or space, there's tremendous flexibility for what we're operating today. Larry?
What's the situation with upload speed?
Still limited to about 4.5, 5 megabits. Yeah. Well, it should be better. Right now, but that's per modem. I didn't mention it earlier, but we have a very fancy trick that I helped figure out and pioneer here with your gracious hardware, where multiple modems can transmit in the upstream in parallel up to 4 at once.
Is that data rate for your 10 megabit coverage? And then you down to 1 or 2 megabits, doesn't the upstream rate?
Yeah, the graph doesn't focus on upstream performance. It's going to be crap in the orange area and adequate in the green. Not amazing in either, unless you're close to the base station. But the good news for the operating side and the back end is that parallel devices can transmit at the same time and still see about 4 megabits each until 4 active at once in the sector.
The good thing for all this is you can buy a single 10-foot pole of conduit and you can stick it on your back porch, zip tied to your deck railing, and then you can put a Wi-Fi antenna that a guy in Hawaii makes by hand and sells, and they're about $30 on eBay, and then you can get really good connection wherever you want. Yeah. It's just that you need to go up a little bit to get above the rooftops.
As we put more dense coverage to the city, indoor performance is going to go up and up and up. Right now, it's probably got to be outdoor if you're more than about 1.5 miles away from the base station. And someone asked earlier if there's a real physical distance maximum. Protocol stops synchronizing at about 100 microseconds of free space. It's like 18 miles or so, 19 miles. That's it. Signal goes forever and ever and ever off into space, and they'll probably be hearing us talking about it decades or millennia from now somewhere off the planet. But we can't synchronize the modem to the base if you're further than about 18 or 19 miles away.
So what about trees and buildings? Is there
That's the big killer. Solids and things that are at that half wavelength or so critical to space will interact with the field and attenuate it or reflect it, and you won't be able to work so well. But rain and things that are smaller than that will not interact with it at all. So we're pretty good on rain. Snow is all irrelevant. It doesn't see any of that stuff. But trees and thick brick and metal will attenuate that. Same thing you have with your cell phones. But we're trying to push a lot more data than we are on mobile networks in this thing, so the frailty is a little higher. Any last?
Tony will stick around afterwards. He
All
did
right.
bring some beer, I believe.
I brought a lot of PBRs, so hopefully
Then you can say.
But yeah, you can stick around. So Tony's point is that he's trying to find somebody who wants to do, it sounds like, seed development to help figure out some low-level hardware issues to make those modems work, so you can get $5 devices instead of minimum $90 or $100 ish. 50 was the shortest.
For the
So,
but
if you want to,
if the USB module works, I mean, the thing the size of a quarter goes where you want it to go. So imagine what that makes possible. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm Dennis. It turns out I only present things here about LEDs, it turns out. So I hear what? Oh, you got to click that?
Yep, looks like arrow keys are really easy.
Oh, okay. Then I get perfect. All right. It's my 1982 DeLorean. Yes, it's painted. If you're a purist, I apologize. But because it's painted, it gives me license to tinker. So I've been goofing around with it over the years, took the logo off the front, tinted the headlights. Kind of decided I like that blacked out, dark look. I want to get the windows tinted. I just want to turn the whole thing into a shadow, basically. But it's got these like bright 1980s grid taillights on the back, which are pretty cool. But I wanted to black those out. I used to have a tinted cover over them, but that fell off. So a couple of years ago, there was a Bill Madison event here, and I said, hey, let's do some LED taillights. So I took one of the taillights off the car, came in with some LEDs and some ideas, and designed up, there's the LEDs running from an Arduino, designed up some outlines in SketchUp, and with the help of the experts here, cut it on the laser cutter. That's the cutting. And there's the pieces. They still have the paper on them, but they're clear acrylic underneath. The idea was that the grid on the bottom helps me align the LEDs if I had measured them correctly. The second layer is to provide a gap for the thickness of the LED, and then the top two layers provide thickness. So it's a stack of acrylic. At the time, I didn't have any way of gluing them together. They had some alignment holes. They are offset a little bit because they actually go on the car tilted, but I wanted them to be horizontal. So they're offset a little bit. You can see the holes at the top are a bigger gap than the holes at the bottom. And there I'm stacking them up, and then I've got, a roll of these LEDs, so I'm kind of unrolling them and cutting them and wiring them up and then sticking them down. And 24-hour build-a-thon, so you get kind of busy. You don't notice things like, oh yeah, these all have this great equal spacing, until they solder them together in the middle there and screw it all up. Didn't even notice that. So that's why I messed up the spacing. Didn't quite even see that until days later. But there they're red up. Red, green, blue, white, yay, orange. I was trying to dial in the amber for the turn signals. And I decided it could run a few different programs, but I wanted the base program to match the alignment of where the lights usually are. So it's running lights in the center, backup lights on the inside, turn signals on the outside, and then brake lights in the other two positions, 5 positions total. They're all on. And there it's just test fitted to the car. There's no wiring, there's no true mounting system. It's just a prototype, 24-hour build-a-thon. I counted that as a success, and then managed to put it on the shelf and forget about it. And then in June, there was actually a meetup down in Chicago where DeLorean people came in from all over the world, and I said, hey, maybe I should finish that project. So in the course of a couple weeks, I was in and out of here, and Chris and Jim helped with the laser cutter, thank you very much, and studied how the wiring worked on the car and the voltages for the actual real lights to figure out how to tap into that. Figured out a mounting system. It's a, that's actually a video. The center license plate thing comes out, so it actually mounts over the keyholes and then slots over, and then the center thing goes back in, so it's a no visible fasteners kind of trick. And then I wanted to get fancy and actually diffuse these a little bit, so I experimented cutting out these little 2x2-inch set of parallel lines engraved on the laser cutter. The top one I felt was too tight, the bottom one was pretty good. There was a looser one, so this was the Goldilocks one. In the middle here, I kind of like that. So the second layer has that, which tripled my laser time. It took us up to $20 whole. So again, soldering them together, laying them down. This time, I don't know if you can see it, but the second layer, instead of being completely open, is actually a series of gaps in order to help align these a little bit better. And I also went through and fixed and re-gapped all of the stupid things where they were too tight. So those are all even now. So when it is all down, if you look along the diagonals, they line up perfectly. So when you line them up, they're a really nice grid. And yeah, it's not X, Y, it's purposely offset to create like a hex grid kind of thing. I wanted to really challenge myself from a software point of view and not do simple X, Y. And unlike the prototype, I decided, hey, maybe there should be one on the left as well. So I had to build the whole second one too. Yeah. And then had to figure out how to actually glue these together. So I just used silicone aquarium sealant to stick the layers together, but I didn't really trust it too much. So I also blobbed a bunch of epoxy around the edges. And then it turns out I mismeasured and they're a little too high, so I ended up grinding those off. And it's between band size, so that was actually messier than it should have been. That was the back, by the way, the adhesive double-sided for the LEDs. There it is installing it. You can see the ugly epoxy on the side. The keyholes, they ended up getting cut a little bit because I mismeasured that. And the screws go into the existing mounting and then have a little collar and then a washer, and that provides the shaft for the keyhole to fit over and slide on there. And there they are on the car. The top layer is automotive tint, and the prototype used a 5% tint, which only allows 5% of the light to get through. It blocks 95%. Way too dark, totally like not visible even in regular daylight. So the new version uses a 20%, which is like 4 times as much light. Still not quite enough. I also didn't like how shiny and reflective they are. And so that's what's on the car right now. This is the prototype pieces, and we also tried a diffusing layer here that Shira had recommended. This is what the LED strip looks like. You're probably well aware of that. Next steps are I'm going to peel off the shiny tint, and online this is Plastidip smoke that people use to black out their taillights, and it's layered, so you can put on 5 layers or 6 layers or just stop when it's dark enough for you. And it's a matte finish instead of shiny. So the tint's coming off and the spray's going on. Hopefully that'll work. If it doesn't, I have way more tint in the basement. And I think that's it. I did bring the car, and so I'm just going to run outside and basically turn it on. You can see what it looks like if you care. Otherwise, wait a minute and somebody else will present it.
If you guys want to stand up and come over this way, you take a look at it.
There's this like beer bike in the way.
I know, it's terrible. Mark, you want to turn the light on? Thanks, Nick.
Because it's software, the prototype didn't have this at all. This one has turn signal from knobs so that I can change up the programming. And I've got like a different design there. So that's the running lights. That's the turn signals. And then I think I gave away the
So I think we got one more presenter, and then
I donated it. I contributed to it. Salad.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Can I take that right now and run it down to my
Yeah, alright, so my name's Scott, I'm a member here. You might know me from various things, but one of the things that I have an interest in and I love about this place is youth education. So I've been working with a guy named Quincy who couldn't be here tonight to teach a class for kids. It's a youth metalworking class. And we did some grant writing. We're hoping to expand that program over the course of this next year or so. And one of the opportunities we have to expand that is a partnership with the Sequoia Library. It just so happens Quincy's wife works at the Sequoia Library, and also the Bubbler, Madison Public Library Bubbler, if you're not familiar. Great resource. And so on September 23rd of this year, we are partnering with them to do an event at the Sequoia Library. So this is bringing together a few things: our youth education around hands-on metalworking, and our mobile makerspace. I don't know if there's an official name for the mobile makerspace yet. Hack in a Box, mobile makerspace, whatever it will end up being called. We're going to take that show on the road over to Sequoia Library, and we are going to teach kids how to use hacksaws and files and other tools like that, hand metalworking tools, to make fidget spinners. So if you're familiar with the concept, I won't go into it now, but we bring bar stock, we bring vices, we help them use a drill press, we help them use hand tools, hacksaws, and files to make something they get to take home. So it's a really cool partnership with Madison Public Library. It's a fun way to get kids exposed to doing hands-on metalworking activities, something they can take home with them and actually play with and show off. And it's a great opportunity for us to take our mobile makerspace on the road. So that's happening September 23rd. The reason I bring it up here is that we're looking for volunteers to help us out with that event. If you were at the Madison Mini Maker Fair and you saw our trailer there, we had a awesomely busy day of kids making these fidget spinners out in the hot sun. I think we did about 80 or 100 kids came through and made fidget spinners at that event. And we had a great time. No fingers lost. Everybody, no metal in eyes that I know of. A couple of burns, first degree only. So everybody survived. And but holy cow, it was super fun. But we really wanted to help. It was good that we had kids coming through. So Sequoia Library is going to have some folks there. Quincy and I are going to be there. John may be able to make it. We're looking for probably one other person or someone to come and take pictures, someone to do some hands-on work with the kids. Simple technology. You do not need to be intimidated by the possibility. It's all hands-on tools, hacksaws, stuff that we can work with you to help you help those kids within 10-15 minutes. But if it'd be 12:30 to 3:30 on that Saturday, September 23rd, we're going to be working with kids through metalworking.
You found out what time, huh?
I did, yes. So Quincy couldn't be here, but he knew the time. And we're hoping to do more things like that. So this is a great opportunity to get exposure to it. If you're interested in that, just come up to me after the meeting or let me know some other way. Dave.
Right, you've obviously got a philosophy about hands-on. What's behind that?
Yes. Okay, so
hand tools ahead of technology.
I do. This is a part of our programming called All Hands On, and it's my personal experience growing up on a farm as a kid was that I had a lot of time on my hands, and I had a shop, and we had hand tools, and I spent a lot of time working with my hands with those tools. Never lost any fingers or anything like that, and got a great sense for materials. It motivated me to learn. When I could see what a mill could do, it blew my mind. When I could see what a CNC mill could do, that blew my mind. I was motivated to do that. So I love this place, in case that hasn't been obvious over the last 7 years of being a member here. And one of the things I love about it is it facilitates that access, right? But, so you can come in here, if you're motivated and have the right attitude, you can come in and spend time and learn tools, and you're going to be just fine. There's plenty of parents that come and they're like, wow, my kid's really interested, I don't have the skills. What is my pathway for that? And so the goal of the programming is sort of twofold. One is to give kids a direct hands-on experience with tools where they don't need to be supervised by an adult to safely use the tool. So, you know, a hacksaw, files, the hand drills, those things, you have to be really sort of make a concerted effort to injure yourself with all of those tools. It can be done, but kids can safely use that stuff, in my opinion. They can be taught to safely use that stuff, and it's not going to get out of their control. And they can make beautiful, great things with those tools. I mean, that's another great lesson of it. So one aspect is to give them that independently. You want a kid to be able to operate independently in their own creative direction, not constrained by what time an adult can give them necessarily. And those tools facilitate that. I'd love to see us expand that program because you can do a lot more than just with the metalworking, but that's where we start. The second aspect is how do you operate around here in a shop environment as a good citizen? Where are the brooms? When do you sweep up? Why do you do metalworking in the metal shop and not out here at the desk? Where are the hammers? Where are the safety glasses? When do I wear them? All that stuff isn't necessarily obvious to a kid coming in here, or to even an adult coming in here necessarily, and that's why we've been also teaching this class for adults. So we intentionally don't have all the tools ready to go when we come in the beginning of class. We do that, we walk around, we show them where things live, we show them how to take things out of the drawers, how to put things back in the drawers, how to get their safety glasses, how to wash up afterwards, how to sweep up, and all that stuff. So that's the philosophy behind that programming, and that's what I love about it is that the independent access to basically you're empowering a kid. I mean, you can get inspired around here pretty easily, right? But what you need then to follow on to that is the access to go for it, and I think hand tools are a great way to get started in it. So, but yeah, great question. Any other questions?
Great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think it's one of the beautiful things that we do around here is give kids that chance to have that experience. So, other questions? Yeah.
So I know in the first couple of classes you're seeing the kids make, smaller objects. What's the next step? The phase 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think it's really clear yet where we go with it.
Building construction. I think that's where we're
going.
Yeah.
We did some opportunity of like shovels,
ladder, axe grinding,
shovels and pickaxes, and then hammers.
The hands-on Minecraft is I think we're going to call it. The all hands-on Minecraft.
Yeah, we had some kids working in those footing holes over there, and they were saying about the mining in 1 meter square of granite. It's a little different than the real world. But yeah, there's opportunity. We haven't really hammered it out yet. So, John.
What is being done to promote this through neighborhood newsletters, things like that, up at the library schools? Or doing
We haven't marketed really at all. The constraint right now is on instructor time, basically, is what it boils down to. So we're giving it once a quarter this class. The on the road thing, this is the first time we're doing it. We'll have to see how it goes. We haven't marketed at all, basically. It's the most direct.
That's my backyard, so let's talk to get them.
Yeah, great. Other questions?
All right, thank you, Scott. I don't think we have anybody else, right?
So it was time for me to finish up? No. Okay, John.
There was one good question about the taillights that I didn't address, which is the original ones had built-in reflectors, and these don't, which means they're not completely DOT yet. But one of the members has some really cool, I think it's called Scotch Brite or Scotch something. It's a 3M reflective material, and it's black but it reflects white. And so I was going to put some red tint over the top of that and make it so that it reflects red just like the original did. So I want to be results.
I had a question about how hard to make scrolling letters?
It's possible because it's 9 rows, which is enough for letters.
I've always wanted to get off my bumper.
Yeah, and like this has the 2 modes that I originally did during the hackathon. So now that the hardware is done, I'm a software person, so the sky's the limit there, right? I want to do sequential turn signals
And do I have to buy a
Alright,
DeLorean?
guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Your connection got loose, it's not wide anymore.
Yeah, it's fine. That's the best we can do.
Lights?
That help us?
So we started out with Eclipse stuff. We're going to end with some Eclipse stuff here. 38 years ago, I tried to take a picture of the Eclipse in 1979. It didn't work. So I've been sitting around for 38 years getting ready to do it again. Well, during that 38 years, suddenly all the newspapers are finding out about it. And I mean, all the newspapers are finding out about it. MSNBC found out about it. So anyway, I did finally get my Eclipse pictures. So I'm just gonna, I came just to show a few of my pictures. Eric Matthews invited me. Since he was gonna show his, I figured I'd come and show some of mine.
After 38 years.
Still not coming.
Is it Chrome or is it Internet Explorer?
Looking at the wrong viewer.
Okay, here we go. So, there's the equipment. 2 cameras on the left side, tracking. One on the right side, a telescope, tracking. I figured this way, if everything's done by computer and tracking, it's gonna come out pretty well. Except, it was pretty hot down there in Illinois, over 100 degrees that day, so the computers that were running things and me didn't do so well, although I did get some good pictures. Let's see. Ooh, I'm agreeing. Another diamond ring. There's a few where you can see a little bit out of focus, but you can see the sun coming through some of the mountain and valleys on the moon.
Where's the comet tail?
Is that all elongated or is that just the projector?
It's the projector.
Is that a...
This is a stack of 10 or 12 pictures. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 7 pictures. And that's the last one. So, that's it. That's all I
Can you talk a little bit about the project you were a part of?
Actually, yeah, I guess I was taking pictures for Google and UC Berkeley. They wanted pictures of the corona to study for science. So they needed 1,000 photographers across the United States. I applied 6 months ago, got picked, and so 93 of my pictures. That set up there shot 4,700 pictures in 90 minutes, and 93 of those pictures went to Google and UC Berkeley. And they're also being used in, if you look it up on Google, it's the Google Eclipse Mega Movie, and it's version 0.5 right now, and my pictures are at 1 minute 38 seconds. So, yeah, then they'll be used for science by NASA and Berkeley for years to come, because the only time you can see the corona is during an eclipse. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. It was fun. And I'm glad it only took me 38 years to get it right.
What kind of requirements were there on that? Did you need to have your exact GPS location and timestamps and everything, or did they just want the image?
They needed exact GPS down to minutes and seconds for locations, for stitching everything together. Timestamps, yes, because like all cameras timestamp everything. GPSs, if your camera didn't have GPS built into it, then they said take a picture with your phone or something else of whatever, and just include that with your pictures so that you can say this is my GPS location. So that was that. Yeah.
First, congratulations on getting that.
Thanks.
What happened 38 years ago?
What's that?
What happened 38 years ago that you didn't get?
Oh, well, I was 14 years old, and I was working for the school newspaper. They let me out of school the whole day to set up, take pictures of the eclipse in 1979. And that's film back in those days. And some kid, he's got his glasses on, acting all goofy, trips on the tripod, the camera hits the ground, the film goes rolling across the parking lot. That was that. That was it. Eclipse was over, film's on the ground, I'm crying. I didn't even get a chance to look up and see it either. So this time, I got to see it, I got to record it, and
You got logged for science.
yeah, so it worked out good this time, and now I only gotta wait 7 years till the next one. So, yeah, it's cool.
Have you thought about going on board, getting support to go on one of those tours that they'll go around the country, out on the ships and all that for these eclipse chasers? I think you'd be a good host on that.
I would love to do it on the ships, although I'd rather do it on land, just because trying to take pictures of eclipses on a ship is very difficult, because I don't care how big the ship is, it's moving. Even my mounts couldn't stabilize on a ship well enough to get the shots quite that good.
All right. Thanks very much. So we can go around, you can say who you are or what you're interested in, and then you can stick around and check out the understands, and otherwise take a look at the stuff people brought in. So go ahead.
I'm Greg Dixon. I'm a photographer and sector member, and I'm working on, I also play the guitar, and I'm working on some custom cases for charged stop boxes. So like digital delays, things like that, out of plastic. I'm Billy, Davy's brother. Tonight I'm going to weld up the jack with my grandmother. That is us.
I'm Dobby Post, member here, software mostly. I'm John Dennis, I'm a new member, software person. I also I box next door at Ford's Gym, and I have an iPad app for video keeping and timing boxing.
I'm Mark Billy. I'm checking out the place. I guess I'm in the process of building an art gallery and looking for other things. I know I've got a commission to do like a rare sculpture, so I heard about this place from someone who stopped in a couple months ago, and here I am. Otherwise, basically do a lot of different things. The Eclipse was awesome.
I'm Doug, I do some videos.
I'm Davey, Billy's brother. I work on whatever I feel like at the time. And sometimes a member.
How's the house coming?
The windows are in. I'm trimming them out now. very slow process.
Sean Carpenter. Not doing much around here. Trying to help when I can.
I'm Christy, I'm a building designer. Just heard a lot about Sector lately and wanted to learn more.
I'm Carrie Ott Holland. I'm visiting from San Francisco. My brother and sister-in-law, Kate, and learned some of the stuff.
My name's Kate Baldwin. I'm a member here.
Mike Fisher, Woodward member.
Andy, I'm just here with Mike. I really loved it, but I'm gonna come back next month from Rockford.
I'm John, I'm a retired engineer and now playing with making museum models for boats.
Anton Capella, the guy at 5'9", doing all the radio stuff. My interests are communications electronics, double E stuff, computer science, drumming, bass guitar, and lately hockey. Playing, skating. Because Wisconsin does that all winter.
Aaron, I'm a member here. Do all kinds of stuff for each of the casting in.
Adam, David Nelson, I make maps.
Francis Stanton, I'm a member. I make maps too.
Real maps. Not bullshit maps. I make bullshit maps.
There's a quote in there somewhere.
No comment on that. Also been helping a lot at the new place, which is fantastic.
I'm Mark, I'm a member. Lately I'm perfecting the art of the perfect bicycle patch. You know you have to buy a patch kit? That's what I learned yesterday. I've been buying patch kits my whole life, but I could have done membership. That's worth a whole month's membership.
Tim Smengelmeyer, member, metal artist.
Just visiting, watching the videos.
Dennis, I mess with LEDs and Arduinos and 3D printing and things like that.
I'm a member in ECC. Scott, member here.
I'm Tyler, I'm a member here. I'm Bob, I'm a member. I do mostly consumer electronics and Internet of Things stuff, but I've branched out into costumes.
Tim, teacher, or come here for inspiration?
I'm Sarah. I'm a junior in high school, interested in a lot of different things.
I'm Eric, I'm a retired programmer and a member.
I'm Tom, a telecommunications worker and retired person.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming. Like I said, you're welcome to stick around. If you want, I can give you a brief show around or a tour of what's here. So if you want to come up here, I'll show you kind of what's around. Otherwise, hang out and check out the understands and the DeLorean. And yes.
And shout out to Ryan again for streaming and capturing so people can watch it if they're not available.
Brian's somewhere else. Obviously, watching on the screen probably. We do tours every Friday, so we got right out by and check it out. Looking at my own platform. It very much depends on what you're interested When you need it, it's the right thing, and when you don't need it, it's just more
this some of the other work they do?
It's a phone tray or what the?
It's interesting that they're using plywood for that.
Yeah.
But if you hit the right depth, I guess it works out okay.
Right. I guess you have to, yeah, be kind of careful.
You don't want to hit the
of
glue,
that.
you
Yeah.
know?
So it's right there. So it's battery powered as well, so I can unplug it. And I got about an hour's worth of battery juice. You can get like a stick that adds more power and Ethernet to it as well. To start it up, it's it like starts up with like Bluetooth and will talk to the app, and I can configure it to say use this Wi-Fi. Then once it's on the Wi-Fi, I can then do the audio.
Is there an option to do it with cable?
Yeah, so there's an option to do it with Ethernet when you get this big stick thing.
That connects.
Right. So if I unlock it, oh, there we go. So there's like some sort of like contacts down here. I'm not sure what they are.
It's $400.
Yep.
So obviously interfaces with YouTube Live, anything else like Facebook?
Yeah, so I can do YouTube, the live stream thing, Facebook, Periscope, and I guess I can stop it since we're done.